This life cycle in MyBatis. Here you can see MyBatis life cycle. It is very important to understand the various scopes and life cycle classes we are using them incorrectly can cause severe concurrency problems. Note object lifecycle and dependency injection frameworks. Dependency injection frameworks can create thread-safe transactional SQL sessions and mappers and inject them directly into your bin, so you can just forget about their life cycle. You may want to have a look at MyBatis Spring or MyBatis Juice sub projects to know more about using MyBatis with DI frameworks. SQL Session Factory Builder. This class can be instantiated using this class can be instantiated, used and throw away. There is no need to keep it around once you have created your SQL Session Factory. Therefore, the best scope for instances of SQL Session Factory Builder is method scope, that is the local method variable. You can reuse the SQL Session Factory Builder to build multiple Session Factory instances. But it's still best not to keep it around to ensure that all of the XML parsing resources are freed up for more important things. SQL Session Factory. Once created, SQL Session Factory should exist for the duration of your application execution. There should be little or no reason to ever dispose of it to recreate it. It's best practice to rebuild the SQL Session Factory multiple times in an application run. Doing so should be considered a bad smell. Therefore, the best scope of SQL Session Factory is simplification scope. This can be achieved a number of ways. Simplest to use a singleton pattern or static singleton pattern. SQL Session. Each thread should have its own instance of SQL Session. Instances of SQL Sessions are not to be shared or are not thread safe. Therefore, the best scope is request or method scope. Never keep references to a SQL Session instance in a static field or even an instance field of a class. Never keep references to a SQL session in any sort of managed scope, such as HTTP session of the servlet framework. If you are using web framework of any sort, consider SQL session to follow the similar scope that of the HTTP request. In other words, upon receiving an HTTP request, you can open a SQL session. Then upon returning the scope, you can close it. Closing the session is very important. You should always ensure that it's closed within a finally block. The following is a standard pattern for ensuring that sessions are closed. Using this pattern consistently throughout your code will ensure that all database resources are properly closed. Mapper instances. Mappers are interfaces that you create to bind your mapped statement. Instances of the mapper interfaces are acquired from SQL session. As such, technically the broad scope of any mapper instance is the same as the SQL session from which they are requested. However, the best scope for the mapper instances is method scope. That is, they should be requested within the method that they are used and then be discarded. They do not need to be closed explicitly. While it's not a problem to keep around throughout as request, similar to the SQL session, you might find that managing too many resources at this level will quickly get out of hand. Keep it simple. Keep mappers in the method scope. Following example demonstrates this practice. Here, do work. Here, SQL Session Factory Builder is connected to SQL Session Factory, and SQL Session Factory is connected to SQL Session. SQL Session interacts with Mapper. Now, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for watching it.